is up, YouTubers and lovers of budget cars and bikes? And as I've said in the first video, maybe not quite so budget in this respect. Welcome to the second part of the Ducati Multistrada 1200 video series. There's only two in the series, but I wanted to do the initial ride, which I've already done and I hope you've seen, which I'll stick up here somewhere. And I wanted to do a kind of a catch-up a few weeks later. I've done about 500 miles on this bike now, so it's one of the bikes that I've done the most miles on that I've owned in the last few years, to be honest. But that's because it's so much fun to ride this bike. It's got to be, I would think, the best possibly bike I've ever owned. I mean, I do love the Monster 1200. I mean, if you haven't seen that video, I'll stick that up here somewhere as well. The Ducati Monster 1200. I did love that, but this is a different ball game. It's a different riding style in that respect. This is a tourer. The other one was more of a kind of like a B-lane, B-road blaster kind of thing, you know, and I did love that. But this will take me around the world if I wanted it to, and I wanted to try that. I wanted to kind of compare it to the GS 1200, the BMW GS 1200, and to see what they were like. Because if you remember when I did the review on that, rather, the GS 1200, I'll stick that up here as well somewhere. I wasn't overly impressed with that, just because it didn't suit my riding style. It was a little bit vanilla in the respect that it didn't have enough punch coming out of corners and stuff like that. You know, I respected the bike, but, you know, it didn't excite me enough. And I wanted to try one of these as a comparison to see whether this would get me to the excitement levels that I needed to be at in that respect. And it does. 160 horsepower on this, so, you know, it's no slouch. But if I'm honest, it's too much. It really is. This thing here, because of the way you're sat up here and you're kind of lent into the bike slightly, but you know, you're more sat upright really. Because of that, when you pull back in sports mode and you've got all the full power going, it rips your bloody arms off this thing. You know, you've really got to hang on for dear life. It's actually not super comfortable in that respect, riding this in sports mode if you just twist back a handful of throttle, because it will throw you off the back if you let it. So it's a bit of a beast in that respect, and you know, it's all well and good having 160 horsepower. I love it all, who wouldn't? But you're never going to use it realistically, you know, only to overtake something that, you know, that you need to get past quick. And I respect it and I love it and it's fun to have, but I just don't know whether I'm going to have that as usable power in that respect. I hope that makes some kind of sense. Anyway, I've put the panniers on today so you can see what they're all about as well. Usual kind of story. There's always little scuffs and marks and bashes and bonks all over the bloody place, because it is nigh on impossible, because the bike's are quite high up. It's nigh on impossible to get on and off these and hook your leg over without clacking into something. I mean, there's a few little marks here as well. They've probably all got it, to be fair, which is a shame, but it's one of those things. You can actually just replace this part of the door here. They're about 35 quid each, this part here, so it's no biggie. This is one of the things I do like on this dash, is when it lights up. It probably won't light up now, of course. Here we go. It gives you all that. Because this is the S model, you get the full colour TFT as well there, as you can see, 16,200 and something miles. It's just come back now, yesterday, from GT Motorcycles in Plymouth, because I decided to have the belts done, the belts changed, because it's 6 years old, not because of mileage obviously, because it's not due until 18,000, but I wanted to do it because of the time period that had gone by, 6 years, so I thought I'll do that. It seemed cheap enough. I got a mega deal on belts from Ducati in Glasgow, so thank you for that, guys. But it was a bit of a weird one, because when I rang up GT, they said it was $270 if they supplied the belts. 2 weeks later I rang up and that jumped to $360 because she reckoned the belt prices had gone up, what, by 90 quid. Luckily I'd already bought the belts, so she said, well, we'll do the labour for $230, which, okay, it's still quite cheap, so it's not too bad. I got all the way there, stood there chatting to the guy for 10 minutes, and he said, look, is yours the DVT? I said, yeah. And he said, right, well, we got to take the cylinder head off to lock the cams to do the belt. And I'm like, fuck's sake, excuse my language. So, you know, it was going to be not done that day kind of thing. So they lent me this Ducati Monster 797, which I'm going to do a review on as well, which will probably come up after this one. Great little bike, so if you're interested, rather. Sorry, it's quite early morning and I'm bearing these teeth in for someone else. If you're interested in the Monster 797, I've got a review of that coming up. Anyway, I digress. So basically I had to take that, go home, come back the next day. I waited until 5 o'clock the next day. Nobody called. Turns out they wanted to, well, they suggested that they check the valve clearances while they're in there. Funnily enough, I did actually mention that to the guy, and he said, well, I don't know what's going on with that. But they said, yes, you're right, shall we do the valve clearance check? I said, yep, no problem at all. He said, 325 quid, and we'll get in and we'll measure it all up. I said, fantastic, why not? Still a good deal. Bear in mind a Desmo service, and the biggest part of the Desmo is the valve clearance and the belt change. They were going to do that pretty much for 325, so I was well happy. Until I got the bill at 495, because 6 of the shims needed replacing. Still a good price though, when you consider it. 1,200 quid for a Desmo, and the only thing I've got to do for that Desmo is the oil change, the oil filter, the air filter and the spark plugs. And that's pretty much done because the belts and the valve clearance have been done. So effectively I've done a Desmo for 600 quid, thereabouts, because I can do that kind of work myself. So that was not too bad, you know, and this bike now doesn't need any work doing for 20,000 miles. It's ready to go, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I've ridden this bike probably more than I've ridden any other bike that I've owned in a short space of time. It looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, it's got more power than you'll ever need, but there are a couple of things that I don't like. Mainly the seat, because it pushes you forward. I don't know if it'll, I'll see if I can get around the other side. I don't know if it will show you there the angle that it pushes you into the bike, so you always feel like you're slipping forward into the bike, and I don't like that. I prefer more this kind of angle. I mean, I guess for a riding safety point of view, yeah, if you're leaning more into the bike you can grip your legs around this part. I get that aspect, but I'm always feeling like I'm being unnecessarily pushed into the front of the bike. I don't like that. That's probably one of the only things I don't like. I don't like the fact that it takes a bloody week to start this thing, because even though we've gone 20-30 years since the last bloody bike I've owned from Ducati, an old Ducati, I mean the first one I ever had, their cables that they use for the battery terminals are just absolutely shocking. So it just kind of does that ga-jinga, jinga, jinga before it starts, which is always a bit of a worry. But you can fix it. It's 100 quid to buy the new cables, and it starts on the button then. And I might do it. I seriously might do it. I mean, I've spent a lot of money on this bike. I've spent 500 quid. I'll talk about prices as well, because I could justify spending the 500 quid because the bike cost me £6,600. Yes, 2015, 16,000 miles, full Ducati service history up until the point I got it, and it cost me £6,600. I had to pay my usual couriers 125 quid to bring it from Aylesbury down to Cornwall, and then 500 quid on top to do this big service, which means everything's done now for the next 5 years, basically, or 20,000 miles. So all told, 7,200 quid-ish. I have bought some other little bits and bobs for it as well. I bought one of these kind of phone holders, like that I had on my BMW RS 1200, that fits onto, I think what happens is it bolts into here, like so, on the inside obviously, and then you put your phone into a dedicated mount, and then you can use this little DIN socket down here to power it up with an adapter, which I've got, and then you can use your phone as sat-nav, so that's brilliant. But that was only 25 quid. I have actually bought a Radiator Guard as well, because of all the crap. Let's get rid of that. Because of all the crap that's spritting up there. But as you can see, there's an Evotech guard already down there. So that was not wasted money per se, but you know, there was, again, AliExpress, 25 quid. So, you know, I bought some little bits and bobs, and this snail looks like he's coming for a ride with us. But very nice. I'm going to get you to the front of the bike and see if we can turn it on. There's another thing I like about this bike is the LED lights. Let me just whip the high beam on if I can remember how to do it. I love these LED lights. Really, really nice. It's just a modern touch, you know, and why not? They also gave me the touring screen. As you can see, I've got 3 screens with this because I spent another 45 quid on a Pugue light tint screen, which comes up to about here. And I've got the stock screen as well, and this massive touring screen. I do get a lot of wind buffering, to be honest. I don't know if it's my height, I'm 6'1", but that screen, even that tall touring screen there, because as you can see, it does actually go up like so and down like so. It doesn't matter where I put it. When you're going into the wind, it doesn't make a lot of difference, if I'm honest. Not that I've noticed anyway. It doesn't put you in a calm, bubble of loveliness, as the MDF would say. Or is it MFD? TMF? TMF, yes, that's the guy. His bubble of calm, as he calls it. It doesn't do that for me, which is a shame. This little bit here, this exhaust shroud here, that had some boot marks on it. As you can imagine, you get your boots up here and you scratch into it. That just needs a clean. I resprayed that because it was all looking a bit scuffed up and horrible. The other thing I don't like about this bike is the brakes, if I'm honest. Again, if you look at the review, it's going to be after this one of the Monster 797. Those brakes rather were sublime. This, I know it's a much heavier bike, but the brakes don't seem to really work as well as they ought to. I don't know if they need bleeding or new fluids or something like that. I'd be surprised at 16,000 miles, but the brakes don't impress me. Let's just put it that way. The rest of the bike, love it. LED indicators, as you can see, beautiful dash, lovely place to sit. We'll start it up in a second, as long as the battery will last on my phone here. The other thing is the way the exhaust gets really manky underneath there as well. They all do it. The Monster does it as well. And I think it should have a quick shifter. That would be really nice. I'm sure I know the 1260 has a quick shifter. So you've got to pay a little bit more to get that, I guess. But being the S, and only 5-6 years old, would have been nice to have it, you know. But overall, how does it compare to the GS, as we were chatting about? I prefer it, of course I prefer it. As I said, I found the GS 1200 to be a little bit vanilla for my liking. I think this looks sexier, I think it sounds sexier, it's a lot faster, and it still has the same kind of riding position. It'll go around the bloody world. Downsides are obviously servicing costs, but then again, BMW servicing costs aren't exactly cheap now, are they? I think we all know that. And those are the only downsides, really. I think it's a beautiful bike. I'm really enjoying owning it. Whether I keep it or not, we will see. Time will tell, I guess, in that respect, but I'm really enjoying riding it. Should you get one over a GS? It depends on your riding style. If you want super reliability, like you get from BMW engines, and the boxer style of engine, if you prefer that, then yeah, all right, go for that. If you want a little bit of individuality, because you don't see these a huge amount on the roads compared to the GS 1200s, get yourself one of these. This, as I said, was just over £6,500. You couldn't buy a 2015 1200 GS for that kind of money. If you want that same sort of dash as you've got on here, this has got cornering ABS, it's got cruise control, it's got heated grips, it's got Bluetooth, it's got LED lights, it's got cornering lights, it's got traction control. We can just get in here again a minute and I'll just quickly show you some of these sub menus that you can go into here and all the stuff you can do. If I just press that for a second, as you can see, you can do your riding modes, and you click into there, you got all of that, and then you go down and out of there, then you can go back in, say I'm going to go into sport, and then obviously you've got your engine power, low, medium, high. Let's get out of there. The only downside of this is you've got to confirm it every bloody time, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. So we'll have to go out of there. And as you can see, we go into there, you've got engine, traction control, wheelie control, ABS, all these different levels of control you've got on here that you can change whenever you like, which is brilliant. Plus, obviously, you've got single rider with luggage, two riders with luggage. It's all just really nice to have that there. If you wanted that on a GS, you're looking at close to 20 grand, aren't you? You know, you're looking at a 2018, 2019 bike, and they're not going to be 6.5 grand, are they? So let's be serious. So again, if you want something with stupid power, beautiful looking bike, reliable, I mean, the DVT 1200 engine is bloody reliable. Servicing costs aren't cheap, but, you know, it is what it is. It's an Italian stallion in that respect. But as I said, 6.5 grand versus, you'd be looking at 3 times that price to get the equivalent GS 1200, I think. So I know which way I'd be going. Anyway, that's where we are now. I may make another video. I can't do a ride video this time around, guys, because my Acaso V50 Pro camera, the microphone's gone on it, the external microphone. I'm waiting for another one to arrive today, oddly enough. If I can get back out today, I'll do a last little ride on this bike, but I've already done one. If you will look up here, I'll link it in. I've done a first impressions review where I ride it and almost get knocked off it on my first ride. So if you want an onboard kind of thing, go and check that video out. And that's probably it for now. I might do another video, if I decide to keep this for a while, I'll do a long-term video on this, an owner's kind of thing. And we'll catch up just in the new year, because we're in the end of September now. So if I do another one, it'll be in the new year, when the weather breaks again for spring. And if I've still got it then, you'll know how much I love this bike. But you know me, I'll probably sell it, won't I? We'll see. And if you haven't subscribed, you like this kind of content, consider doing that. And give the video a like and a thumbs up, that kind of thing. That always really, really helps. Share the video as well if you would. That'd be great. And we will have another video in a couple of weeks' time. I'm not sure what it's going to be on yet, because at the moment all I've got is this. I don't have any cars, don't have any projects. This is my only bike. So, you know, I'm not quite sure what the next video is going to be, but you'll find out if you subscribe. And if you've got any suggestions for the channel as well, do you like the new intros? Which one do you like? Do you like the music I put sometimes, the background music? Do you like that? Do you think it's annoying? Have you got anything you want me to review? Is there anything, you know, that you'd like to see done? You know, bear in mind this is relatively budget, so no 15, 20 grand bikes. I can't afford them. But, you know, I could always go and test ride something at GT. I did ask him about that. So if there's anything you want me to do, then drop it in the comments section. Always lovely to see comments. And as I said, subscribe, like and share if you would. That would be brilliant. I'm going to go back now. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll start this big girl up. He says, confident that she will start up, of course. It's in neutral, yeah, there you go. And there There she is, guys. The sound of the Multistrada 1200. I think that sounds awesome for a stock exhaust, personally. It's got a lovely overrun burble as well, which I forgot to mention from a stock exhaust, you know, so I think that's pretty bloody awesome. Anyway, as I said, we're out of here now. If you want to ride along, then check out the initial thoughts video, which is in my channel there somewhere. I've probably linked it up here somewhere throughout this video. And subscribe, like and share, and we will catch up with each other in a couple of weeks, depending on what I've got, and you'll see the new video then. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope it helped.